an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering One Piece, episodes 601 through 603. Shaking up the New World, Caesar's horrendous experiment. The deadliest weapon of mass destruction in history. Shinokuni. And launching the counterattack, Luffy and Law's great escape. In these episodes, the kids are beginning to have some wild hallucinations. This was something I didn't foresee. This is going to throw a wrench in things. Law, it appears, anticipated that he was going to be betrayed, so that works out well. And everybody outside is beginning to realize, even if they worked for the man in charge, that is not going to save them. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Florian for commissioning this episode. These are really actually quite fun episodes. I'm feeling really good about this arc overall because there, have been plenty of times where something has started off really strong and then it just hasn't gone in the direction that I was hoping. What we are getting here is like a little bit. There were some parts of it that I kind of was like about. I'm gonna kind of be jumping around here a little bit, so forgive me, everybody. But one of the major things for me, and I had a lot to say in the last episode, the last podcast episode, about my feelings regarding whether or not it's necessary to make people die for there to be stakes. And I stand by everything I said, but there's really no point just like harping on that continuously. We know how I feel. I know how Oda feels. He isn't going to be changing the way he does things because I feel a way about it. And I just have to like reconcile myself to a degree, some things are going to feel a little bit less satisfying to me just because I am not feeling the stakes the same way. And I am going to try and keep my like commentary on that to a minimum just because I've said it already. There's no need, But I will mention that just the fact that the gas alteration, because like Caesar Clown, basically what he has done is added an element, a giant candy, as it turns out, to this gas, Smiley, to make it so that it turns people into stone. A part of me can't help but like laugh a little bit because it feels like we're running out of ideas a bit on how to make people suffer consequences to a thing without killing them. And we have done the turning people to stone with the wax fruit. We have done it with the, I think, love fruit is the one that Boa ate. And I really, there is just a sense for me of like Oda having to brainstorm what are ways to kill people that I can easily undo. And turning to stone is really just the most reliable one that he keeps reaching for. And I'm not even like really mad at it. It just is a little repetitive after a point because you do, we've done this before. So I'm going to obviously treat this as the characters do, in terms of like, oh, what a horrible thing he's doing. But I can't help but be like, yeah, well, those guys are going to be fine. We're going to undo all of this. They're just made into stone. I'm sure there's something we can do to undo the stone, and they will be back to normal, and we will have lost nothing. So, I, again, that's just the nature of writing the way that he wants to write. That said, though, the fact that it's like, let's give this giant jelly creature fucking like a big piece of candy to make it turn into an even more weird, deadly gas. I can't deny that shit is very funny. Like, that is such the candy theme with this guy. There's something about it that, coupled with how creepy I already find medical experimentation, the sort of innocence allegedly of candy, like the association of it, it makes it all the more unnerving and unpleasant. And I think it works quite well. Caesar Clown is, despite his name, I think just pretty solid so far in my book. Like, as a villain, I am pretty into him. So I hope that he doesn't like fully lose me anywhere along the way. We're doing really well so far. So let's start off with 601, shaking up the new world. So I had said in the last episode that the kids reach the lab, but I had completely forgotten that they don't get off this like airship right away. So the first of these three episodes is the kids being brought back to the lab off of the ship. And it's sort of an interesting thing here because the kids are, the way that we're shorthanding that they are still in the throes of their addiction is these whited out eyes, right? And I had kind of thought that once their eyes were back to normal, that it would indicate they had broken through to the other side and they were no longer under this like detox pressure. But the little girl who winds up like starting shit because she's seeing things, her eyes do look normal. And so when I first saw her eyes, I was like, oh, here it is. Because you may remember that in the last episode, I was sort of like, is it possible that they'll break through to the other side and kind of come back to themselves? Or is it possible that like they get given the drug and they, because it restores them to their right mind, realize that they made a mistake coming back here? And so when I saw that her eyes had gone back to normal, I thought, here it is. This is a kid that has gone through all the way to the other side, is no longer in the DTs. And so she is beginning to see the reality of where they are and the fact that they're being put back into a cage, basically. Um, and it's like a weird, the way that this happens is she's looking at all of the kids walking back into the lab in front of her, and when she's watching them and acting scared of the guy who comes up to her, her eyes in that moment are all white. And so she's seeing this dude as a lizard. Like, it's actually really, really fun because the suggestion they're making, based on the flashbacks they give us of her time in the cave and what it was that Usopp was saying about how these are bad guys, it's basically sort of that what Usopp said penetrated subliminally. And so even though she isn't fully in control of her thoughts, something about what he said has felt true. And she isn't able to fully articulate it. So it's sort of manifesting in this vision that she's seeing. And so that's how I was taking that then. And then when they close the door behind her and there's like multiple locks and whatnot, she immediately her eyes turn back to normal and she says, "No, please save me, Nami. I don't want to be here. I want to get out of here." And I thought, like I said, that that was the end of it. But we go back into this vision, and one of the guards, he's still a lizard, and then the other guy is a frog, I think. And then she starts saying, "You're scary, you're monsters. Stay back. Let me go. I want to be with my nice friends like before. Is this some kind of punishment for being bad? I see now. I should have listened to what they told me. I'm so sorry. Please help me. I promise I'll be good." And she starts pounding on the door, and reminder, like, she's a giant kid, she's one of the big ones, so her pounding on the door actually, you know, it's not going to really do anything. She's not going to get out, but it's more significant than one of the littler kids, and the guards can't just like grip her up and drag her. But the fact that it was a little bit confusing to me, so I'm curious what you guys think, because the fact that her eyes become sort of normal made me feel as if we're getting her back to her right mind, but then she's still seeing them like she's in this state, and she's calling for Nami and is like, "My nice friends." So that feels like her judgment is back on track again. But I think maybe she's just not. I think that maybe what we're getting with like her eyes returning to normal is just a shorthand for she is not fully and completely absorbed in the fugue state that everyone is. It may not be that she is back to normal, but she is the first to see through what's happening around her in a way that the others haven't. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that because like it just kind of went back and forth for a second in a way that I was like, hold on, hold on. I thought I knew what this meant, and I guess not. But yeah, I'm really interested to see how things go down with this, because the fact that like she has turned a corner. At first, all the other kids are yelling at her, basically saying, because like when they arrive, of course, what Caesar Clown says is, "I have enough candy to stuff yourselves in the biscuit room. Go in there and have as much as you want." And then he tells his guards, like, "And don't fucking let them out again." And I really am wondering, like, the kids at first, as she's starting to throw this tantrum, I feel like saying that it's a tantrum is kind of shitty, because that a tantrum really often implies that somebody is completely overreacting, and that is not the case here at all. But I'm just going to call it that for the shorthand. The fact that she is doing this, the other kids at first all seem to really, really resent. And I can't help but feel like either they are all going to get on the same page with her, or she's going to like kind of infect their brains with this imagery, this by suggesting, "Hey, I think that, you know, these guys are actually monsters." If she only being told that like these guys are bad guys was enough to make her suddenly see them as literal monsters, I would have to assume her saying something similar is enough to get the rest of the kids seeing this way as well. I would think. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know. But I am hopeful because, like, really, when we get to the bottom of things, guys, I don't like these kids being taken advantage of in any way. I don't like the fact that they may get given drugs again that gets them rehooked, like, so we have to maybe go through all of this detox yet again. All of this stuff is, it just makes me really sad and uncomfortable to think about. And I would love it if we were able to have all of these kids start to kind of come to their senses and just be a real pain in the dick for Caesar Clown. Like, they don't even need to fully come back to themselves and be like, the master is evil and he's the one doing this to us and we've been fooled. Like, they don't need to fully get it, but some of them are huge. Like this girl in particular, I think she's one of, I think there's maybe three or four that are really big. Um, and so if she and some of the other big ones decided that they wanted to really dig their heels in and ruin these guys' day, they could. And I, for one, fully support this and love this idea. So I'm really looking forward to, hopefully, it would almost be more fun in a way if the kids lashed out because they thought everybody was a monster. Like, I could see if you're writing this and you do need the kids to eventually lash out against their captors. That's a really tricky line that you have to walk because they're children, so you don't want them to be like bloodthirsty little monsters. But also, they need to be aggressive enough to get themselves out of the situation they're in. So, I think this is probably a pretty good approach of being like, all right, the kids are going to get very aggro, but they're going to think that these men aren't really people. And so that kind of puts it into a place where even if they start to get a little out of hand, you can forgive it because, well, these are monsters they think they're fighting. So it's not as horrifying, you know? So anyway, that's just my thought on that. But the kids are just unexpectedly becoming more interesting to me throughout all of this. So let's see. Oh, right. We have, Nami in Sanji's body coming to rescue Usopp. And this is a thing that happens more than once, but Usopp keeps calling Nami Sanji. And then when Nami is reminding him that she is, in fact, like Nami in his body, he keeps looking really disappointed. And I was so bummed about this, you guys, because, like, I stand by my need for Nami to become a slightly better fighter. I just need I need something because I don't like the fact that he can have this reaction to her and that I get why. You know what I'm saying? Because Usopp is a scaredy cat and he of course is like going to feel less excited about the fact that he is with somebody who isn't going to be able to absolutely kick ass the way that Sanji can. Now, the question is a little bit here, how do their abilities work? Because I feel like even though Sanji is in Nami's body, that he was able in the last episodes to do some of that like skywalk thing that he, with when he's getting out of the lake and the gas is closing in on him, he basically like shoots upward through the one gap in the water where the gas hasn't penetrated yet, and it's because he's using that ability. So, like, my thought had been your ability goes with the body. But if we're looking at the way things went with him, maybe that's not actually correct. I don't know. Anyway, so she's like, "All right, we really have to go, Usopp." And eventually they get the help of Brownbeard, who agrees to carry them even though he is injured. And really, like, the dude says, "Are you kidding? You guys are nothing. Like, carrying you is not a big deal at all." They're very much like, "Hey man, I know that this is a big pain." And he's like, "No, it's fine." They're also feeling indebted to him, understandably, because he swooped in and saved their lives at the last second when they were about to get beat to death by a bunch of fucking infants. So, yeah. Just real quick, guys, if you can hear some odd sounds, that's good old Pippin over here chewing on one of his favorite chews. So apologies if that sound comes through on the recording. So we've got this moment here with Virgo and Monet. I keep forgetting her name. Now, Virgo, it's sort of weird So, first of all, let's talk about the fact that somehow this man has basically magnetic skin, and he gets a cup of coffee or tea or something, and she, like, gives him milk and a spoon to stir into it. And he takes a sip out of the cup while the spoon is resting on the side, and then it just sticks to his face. Friends, I don't know what this means. Why is this happening? Why do things keep sticking to his face? Is this anything? Like, it's just such a bizarre little thing to have happen over and over again. And I guess this is just gonna be something going on with this character. Like, I would just love to ask Oda, what is the sort of like mechanism by which you determine quirks of a character? Because some things feel really like understandable, and like that's based in reality. And then there are things like this where I'm like, look, I understand always maybe having food on your face. I am somebody who personally struggles a lot with always staining my clothes. I get food on my clothes constantly, and it's really, really annoying. But I don't get a whole steak or a whole spoon stuck to my face. So I just, this is just such a strange thing. So he's like in the midst. I noticed here Monet doesn't look very happy with him because she asks if he would like more milk or sugar or something, and he says no, he's fine. And the camera zooms in on her face in such a way, and I wasn't sure if it's supposed to be that she's upset that he declined the offer because she had some sort of plan to give him something else, or if it was like, I'm going to I was looking at you as the spoon stuck to your face, and so I felt a way about that. But it just, the expression, there was almost a sense of like her being annoyed with him. And I can't decide if I'm imagining that or not. So anyway, this, I'm sort of jumping around here, but this is when Caesar Clown comes in. And I had sort of expected Caesar Clown to be like, what are you doing here? I really, you guys, I was really behind on the uptake on this. I had, the way I was thinking this was going was that Monet is working with Virgo and not with Caesar Clown the way she has been pretending, that Caesar Clown is her assignment, but Virgo is the one really in charge, and he doesn't know Virgo is here. That Virgo's arrival is like kind of throwing a wrench into things, and maybe that's why she is looking like a little bit weirded out here because he's an actual superior. I don't know. And then Caesar Clown comes in, and like Virgo had just said to her, maybe you could tell me why Caesar is taking so long. And I was thinking it was going to be Caesar walks in and is just like, you know, not at all, not even a little bit. Caesar fully is aware, and this dude is part of the whole thing. And I really should have seen this coming. I was also like really confused in the last episode, but I didn't get a chance to talk about it. Why Virgo even has Law's heart, because that's Law's power, right? So part of me was like, does this man have a power by which he can co-opt other people's power temporarily? Like, that would probably be is there a devil fruit that's just like the fruit where you just like are able to absorb other people's powers just temporarily? But I can't believe that it didn't occur to me that these two were fully working together. They just both don't seem like they are the type to have partners of equal power. You know what I'm saying? Um, and I know that kind of should have tipped me off about how there was the setup for Law, but I just didn't see Law as being more powerful than Caesar Clown. And I'm really like Caesar Clown's reasoning later on when we see the flashback to where he convinces Law to give him his heart. His reasoning is like, you are more powerful than me, so I think you probably understand why I feel like uncomfortable with this. And I was genuinely surprised because, like, don't get me wrong, Law is super powerful. But what Caesar is able to do with, like, completely taking somebody's oxygen away, I don't know. I guess if he can do that, it depends on having access to the space right around a person. So Law would be able to create a room and like nothing that Caesar Clown does to the air would be able to get in amongst that, right? I think this is just like, me trying to work things out in real time. But yeah, anyway, I hadn't considered Law as more powerful than Caesar Clown, considering the fact that Caesar Clown had managed to take Luffy down, and Luffy is so strong that the fact that he gets bested the way he does really did make me kind of go, oh, yikes, you know? But as it turns out, Law is a step ahead of everything. Um, but yeah, so what he had said was, I'm going to make a deal with you, and when you like, if you're going to be higher power than me, but you're going to be traipsing around this island and right up under my nose all the time, I am going to need something to ensure that you can't just turn on me at any moment, some sort of insurance. So he offers Monet's heart for Laws. Monet seems genuinely startled. She goes along with it, but it really didn't seem like she appreciated it or was excited about it. The thing that shocked me, though, was more how Law goes along with it, because I definitely had a moment of like, Monet's heart. No, like, Monet's nobody. She's just an underling. That's not actually insurance for you, because it's meant to be like, I'll keep your heart, but I won't have total leverage over you because you'll have Monet's heart. But like, I guess the thought might have been that I can like pressure Monet into getting my heart for me, and it didn't feel like an even trade, and it isn't. I guess that's like really the point. But what it turns out is really going on is that he is handing that heart over to Law, and so this fucking dude can just stand over him and squeeze the hell out of it and just fuck up his entire day. And that is really scary, actually. And it's remarkable that Law isn't more freaked out by this, to me. But I'm jumping around yet again. Sorry about this, everybody. So I'm trying to jump ahead. Okay, so the candy that just comes like popping out of nowhere and lands. All the men are just like, "What the hell is this thing? It's candy. It's a giant piece of candy." Now, what I find really funny is the fact that evidently Caesar Clown thought he knew how this was going to work out. I don't, I, so Caesar Clown, he's chosen to do this in a way that kind of showcases his ineptitude, if we're being real. He has on camera this whole thing that he is doing for everybody to see, because in his mind he is about to show him how it's done. He is about to like really show off his creation, devastate the entire island, and get a bunch of like people calling in with their orders. But the Smiley I'm gonna call it the, because just saying Smiley, it doesn't feel alive enough to for me to like call it by its name as if it's a person. The Smiley feels like a little bit more accurate to me, but I don't know, maybe that's just me. Um, but because he is so prideful and has decided that he's going to handle it this way, when Smiley doesn't do what he says, it makes him look like a damned fool. And I couldn't help but wonder, like, did you just shoot yourself in the foot with this thing? I feel like he must have done. This is a classic Frankenstein situation where you create something that is meant to be something you can use against other people, and then it turns on you. Not to say that originally Dr. Frankenstein wanted to use the monster against other people exactly. He was just doing it to see if he could do it. But in this case, I am sort of hoping that like the the Smiley will turn on Caesar and eat him up or take him down or something. I don't really know why it would, or yeah, I'm not going to even try and guess. But I just felt like if you hadn't decided you were going to send this footage out to everybody in real time, you wouldn't have been able to be humiliated like this. And the way that he attempts to stop Smiley is by saying like, it's been a long time, we have so much catching up to do. Again, this thing does not strike me as alive enough to have this sort of conversation and have it mean anything. He's talking to it like it's a person that he's telling, oh, well, give us a second to just, you know, see how's your mother doing, and then we'll drink our beers. But you aren't out there actually holding the candy away from him, Like if I put down a steak in front of Pippin and I wasn't there to tell him don't eat it, if I was like behind a door, of course he's going to go for it anyway. He's not going to listen to me. If I'm in the room, I believe he would. Maybe he wouldn't, but I think he would. But Caesar, you can't just like put the thing out there and then expect it to exercise self-control. Why did you think it was going to want to can it even talk? What is the catching up to do even look like? How would it respond to you? I genuinely don't know what it is that he is expecting here. Um and all this said, when it really like comes down to it, it doesn't seem like this went as poorly as it could have gone. Like it all kicks off a little earlier than Caesar really wanted, but it doesn't seem like it's ruined anything. So I'm not sure exactly what it was that if he was trying to do the like let's catch up for the benefit of the cameras because he wanted some other thing to shake out a certain way. I guess that's the only thing that we missed out on. I'm sorry, guys. Pippin is over here, like trying to get my attention, and I'm sorry, bud, but I can't let you out right now. Let me just text Owen. But anyway, so this the transformation of all of these dudes who are outside into stone. It's honestly what takes up a lot of the next episode because most of what's going on is people running and the smoke, the gas chasing them. Um it's a because of this whole thing as well with the candy. There are all of these guys that are outside, like in the area where Smiley is with the candy, and Caesar is saying like give him the candy and then the dragon sled should get you out of there. That should do the trick. You want to get out quick because it's dangerous. And as he's saying this, there's this gas that's sort of like melting the sled. The sled is made of wood, I think, and it's just burning through the sled itself and the rope. I have to give a shout out to the design of this dragon. First of all, it's only the second dragon we've ever seen. So it's very funny to me how like casual this is, the dragon sled. But secondly, if anybody out there has ever seen Santa Claus is Coming to Town, which is a classic Christmas claymation movie, there is a character named the Burgermeister, and he at one point is like riding in a wagon or something being pulled by a horse, and the Burgermeister says something about how like he loves seeing sad children and laughs. And then the horse pulling the wagon like laugh neighs in a really evil villainous way. And that's always been one of my favorite little bits in the movie is the fact that even the horse is evil. So you can imagine my delight when the dragon is like glancing over his shoulder as the ropes begin to like fizzle and get eaten up by the gas. This dragon is so tickled at the way this is all going down. I am assuming because of the way the dragon is acting, it's not being harmed by this gas. Now, I think it will be once things go further, but I'm not sure the dragon has the capacity to really understand that part. But I just wanted to give a shout out, honorable mention, because this dragon's reaction, it's so great in the moment when he runs away. And then later, I was watching this and Owen was getting ready to leave for work. And so he was in the kitchen as like I'm watching this just cackling to myself. And then he walks in at a later moment when you see the dragon running again because the camera like goes back to him. And he started laughing so hard because the animation of this dragon running, again, he just looks so mischievous. He looks like somebody who is getting away with something. And that shit it is just delightful. I really don't want this dragon to die. I want this dragon to be around and to live through the gas. I would like it best if he doesn't turn to stone, but if he does turn to stone and then, you know, eventually is brought back, that's fine too. I just don't want the dragon to actually die because he is very fun, very adorable animation considering usually when in this show when a creature is meant to be kind of like an antagonist, they are drawn to be really ugly in a particular way. And that isn't done here. The dragon is just like very adorable. You know, it looks like something that you could buy as like a plush. And he's just got kind of a as he's running along. Shit is so good, y'all. I loved it so much. I wouldn't mind a plush of that dragon at all. So anyway, all of this is happening. These dudes, like, eventually Caesar tells them, oh, those suits aren't going to help you anymore. So, and they're going to slow you down as you try to run away. So, probably best if you just take them off. And they're like, really? One of the guys is like, I don't know about that. And another dude replies with like, has he ever been wrong before? Come on, let's just do what he says. And to be fair, I expected that as soon as they took them off, it would start to all go downhill. And it doesn't actually. They are able to run and things seem to be okay for a few moments. But as like as they are running, we cut over to our friends, and Smiley Reminder is big enough that it seems to be menacing like more than one group of people at a time. So they're running and they're sort of look behind themselves at like, wait, why has it stopped chasing us? Because it's focused on eating this candy. And then we see as the change takes place with the effect of this gas, one of the Marines is like, because, you know, this is all on billboards. I don't know what's how to call this, like giant screens, I guess. So everybody who's outside, even if they're not in the area where Smiley is, and even if they don't see the candy and all that, they are still getting kind of front row seats to what's happening. So one of the dudes rightfully is just like, why are we actually getting to see this anyway? Um, and Smiley's like acid, I guess, that he's made out of eats away at the wrapper of the candy. So eventually it's just the candy inside there that is creating this like chemical reaction. So going back to our friends who are running, this was very funny to me. Even though I have, as you all know, had very mixed reactions to Sanji taking Nami's body, I couldn't help but giggle at the fact that, like, they're running and they're having to go as fast as they can for quite a while here. They're having to keep up a punishing pace. And eventually they see the dragon up ahead and they're like, well, if we could just grab that thing, it could help us. And they aren't able to catch up with it. And eventually Sanji is like, oh, this is so terrible. I don't know what to like. I can't keep putting Nami's body through this. I am having trouble breathing. It's in my chest. Well, her chest. And then all of a sudden he looks down and he just goes, boobs, and shoots forward at top speed and manages to catch the dragon after all. I actually thought that was a pretty good joke. That, like, he thought he was going all out, but actually, once he noticed the boobs, that gave him an additional burst of energy. That tracks for me. Meanwhile, I have to acknowledge this weird thing that happens because, like, the sled that the men had been supposed to take back, the dragon sled, they've left the sled behind and it's empty except for there's one bag in the back that has 3 apples in it. And the camera kept going back to this bag of apples, and I kept being like, what does this mean? You know what I mean? Like, I was sort of expecting the apples are gonna vaporize at some point. And so that is when we will like realize that the chemical reaction has fully crossed over, taken place, that we are in serious danger now. And instead, we get what I think is the transformation of at least one of the apples into a devil fruit. It gets the swirls on it and it goes from red to bright blue. And it's the only one. The other apples don't change. They don't seem to go to do anything or be really affected. Um, and then Smiley comes forward. Smiley turns purple at this point. This whole time he has been red with like a purple sheen, sort of. But he finally, as this candy dissolves inside him, turns fully purple. As you see the devil fruit become blue, the camera cuts back to Caesar, who's saying, and now be reborn, arise, something like that. And I couldn't tell if that was related to the devil fruit change or not. Like, those apples can't have been there by accident, right? He had to know that whatever was going on with the chemicals here was going to create a devil fruit. I'm assuming like that this was part of his overall experiment, was trying to see if he could artificially create a devil fruit. Or else that, like, I don't know if I'm supposed to believe that this sled accidentally had a bag of apples on it. And but that doesn't, I don't buy it, you know. Maybe that is the thing, but if so, I'm going to kind of side eye it a little bit. But a part of me was like, as Smiley comes forward and begins to drip over and turn more into an actual gas, Smiley sort of covers this sled. And I was wondering if it's meant to be that, like, Smiley eats, quote unquote, the devil fruit. Um, if this is supposed to be that this creature is like living enough that it can make use of a devil fruit power somehow. Because we know that there was like a gun that ate a devil fruit or something, right? Like there was something really ridiculous in one of the previous seasons arcs. So I guess it wouldn't be out of the question for Smiley to be able to utilize a devil fruit. But I couldn't quite tell if that was what we were doing here because we don't really go back to that sled. The fog of this gas is not moving as a unit the way that Smiley did, where it was like a single being. It just sort of spreads and is remaining covering everything that was behind it. So I don't get to see the sled sitting there by itself and whether or not that devil fruit is still in there. Um so yeah, this whole thing is I am oh guys, I'm thinking about this devil fruit too and like if it isn't on purpose and if Caesar Clown doesn't know that the fruit is there, what is going to happen to it? Because somebody is going to want it for sure. And it's all going to depend on who sees it first, if it's still there, if Caesar knows about it. And also, like, if I'm asking who would I want to eat it, it's like a really tough call because the devil fruit powers aren't necessarily always awesome for combat. So after having just said that I would love it if Nami would get to be a badass fighter, my instinct is to say I would love for Nami to eat it. But then if she wound up with something really lame, I would be quite irritated about it. Because, like, obviously, I am going to want her to end up with something dope and powerful. But, that's not always the way it goes. Or it's something that, like, you could finagle as being allegedly powerful, but that was still kind of a joke. I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, I got my eye on that fruit. That's all I'm saying. So, oh, right. Then we go back to Usopp and Nami inside Sanji's body. And this is when they see the gas pouring towards them, and Brownbeard picks them up and starts running. Um, I'm just trying to jump a little bit ahead here. We have all the guys that are turning into stone. And of course, Caesar is so delighted because everything is really going to plan. And he talks about how the original attack with the gas, too many people lived through it. Like, folks were injured, but they were able to still drag themselves to find a doctor and eventually get over it. So he has tried to ensure this time that folks aren't able to do that, that it's guaranteed death. Meanwhile, inside, we have Chopper, who I had totally forgotten about. And he is trying to decide what the fuck to do in this situation. He's like got this sort of, what's the word I want? A little arsenal of chemicals that he could put together to make some cures, apparently. I'm trying to find the spot where he says this. What do I do? I've got to do something or he's going to kill all of my friends, but how can I help? With these injuries, I'll only get myself captured. And if that happens, the drug formula and the sedatives I found, it'll all be for nothing. So he's standing there trying to decide. And then this like clump of paper, it almost at first to me looked like a spitball, but it's too big for that. It hits him in the face and he like ducks and runs off thinking somebody saw him. But then he picks it up and it actually says, don't do anything. And he doesn't know who sent it, who threw it at him. I am really, really curious about this because it has to be somebody outside the cage, right? Who else is going to have been able to do this? And the person that I immediately think of is Monet. I can't help but keep feeling like Monet just doesn't quite fit in this whole outfit. I just don't know what to make of her. So I'm trying to give her a little bit of grace here. I don't know. Um Plus, at this point, it's like the cage with everybody is starting to be lifted up outside. So I'm not even totally sure if the other Straw Hats are still completely in the room by the time this hits Chopper. But and not just the Straw Hats either, also Tashigi and Smoker, and Law. But the whole cage gets lifted wholesale outside. Uh, and that way they can be in the line of attack with this gas. So this is the point where Tashigi is looking at the Straw Hats, who seem not worried at all, and is just like, what is going on with you guys? Why are you so chill? You should be a lot more worried about this than you seem to be. And we find out about some of the ways that they are going to be getting out of this really quickly. The start of the third of these three episodes, 603, is when Scratchman Apu appears again, because we go over to some of the other pirate captains and check in with Kid, and apparently he has called a summit for some of the others because he wants to team up. And so we have a few of our different guys, but Scratchman Apu is particularly funny to me because I don't remember the voice actor being like this before, and he may have been and I just forgot, but he is really giving like 2004 middle schooler for me. It is hilarious. Like, this voice actor, this character is very, very strange, but you could have done something sort of more. I don't know. It's just not, it's unexpected, and it actually goes really well with his overall strangeness. Um, and then, yeah, we have Basil Hawkins over here as well. And this this whole thing, like, they seem to believe that they're here for a trap, but Kid has to explain to them, I'm trying to team up with you guys. This isn't, I'm not interested in fighting you all. Um, so back to the Straw Hats. Uh, Law is like, can you set fire to that Navy ship down there? And Frankie is like, yeah, I absolutely can. Just sit back and watch me work. And I was watching this kind of like thinking, well, how can he do this with the chains? But then I realized, Frankie, it's not devil fruit with him, so he can still use his abilities. So he spits a flame out of his mouth, and it just hits that remaining half of the ship like a fucking falling star, sets it all on fire, and then there's a bunch of smoke that covers their cage so that inside Caesar can't see what's going on with them. Um and he thinks that it's just them throwing a tantrum, that they're doing something because they're angry but not actually effective. And he says something about like, I'll put your body to good use in my lab. So then we have the reveal of how Law actually isn't in Sea Stone chains. He saw the chains in the lab and recognized that there was some danger because he didn't trust Caesar to begin with. And so he is able to get himself out of the ordinary chains that he replaced the Sea Stone ones with. And then he uses room on their little cage. He is able to summon his weapon back to him and bust all of their chains open. Plus, he moves Smoker and Tashigi back into their correct bodies. And of course, Tashigi, when she comes back to herself and sees that her like legs are open and her shirt is open, is like super embarrassed, and basically she this moment was very annoying for me, but also I liked the fact that she yells at Smoker because she's asking the pirates for help, and he's like, where's your pride? And she's like, who the fuck gives a shit about pride? There are people dying. If we get killed for our pride, all of our men are as good as dead. And then she starts to call Vergo vice admiral, and she stops herself and she's like, and he'll keep covering up what happens here. What about the children? We can't leave them. We can't die. And I really like that she just stands up to him because Smoker is such a pain in the ass about so many things. And he needed a reality check. She is correct. And most of what I have seen from her, she has been a pretty good fighter, but has seemed kind of ridiculous a lot of the time, just the way she's being portrayed. And so I appreciated her getting a moment to be heartfelt and be taken seriously and be making a good point. Um, oh, also, I should mention that Law calls Smoker White Hunter. I don't remember that name. Is that a name somebody else has used as well? Um, but yeah, let's see. Oh, right. And Law is like, yeah, I really need you guys to ruin Virgo's reputation, actually. That would be great. But the deal is that I will help y'all get out of here as long as you don't tell anybody about my connection with Joker and who Joker is. I'm not just saying, like, hey, be cool and don't do that. I'm saying you agree not to do that or you stay fucking here. And finally, Smoker agrees, but he is obviously very, very salty about it. So this is the point where they break the cage open and Luffy just literally jumps out without asking anybody what the plan is. And I love when Law is like, hey, he doesn't know what we're supposed to be doing. Frankie says, well, then you should have kept him chained up. And I couldn't help but laugh because it's exactly correct. If you want him to know what the plan is, keep him in place. And honestly, that's no guarantee he's going to do the plan. It's just that he's going to know about it. But he'll probably just do what he was going to do anyway and completely ignore you. So, Law, buddy, you're going to need to get used to the fact that this guy does whatever he fucking wants. So anyway, Frankie takes off because he wants to check out the Sunny, which I thought was sort of weird, but okay, sure. Um, I love Tashigi like fixing her hair and then looking over at Smoker with this glare. And she's got her like little pink cheeks and her glasses and everything. She almost looked like kind of chibi. It was very, very cute. So I'm sorry, I'm running out of time. So I'm just trying to make sure that I haven't missed anything. Um, oh, right. We have eventually all of our friends that are on Dragon back, and Brooke gets like flipped off the back of the dragon and is like flying through the air toward the gas, and he gets grabbed, I think, by Brownbeard, if I'm not mistaken. No, he gets grabbed by Usopp. Right, right, right. Um, so yeah, they all wind up sort of in a similar place. This dragon is so amazing. Like I really am so delighted with this being more of a thing. Um so let's see. Where's Brownbeard? Poor guy. He's got his like tail that I think does he get bitten? Is that what it is? He's like running in front of the dragon. Yeah, the dragon bites him. That's right. And so Brownbeard is just like basically pulling all of them like a tow truck. And I love that when I think it's Usopp who says something like "You're useful after all." Maybe it's not Usopp. I feel like he wouldn't say that, but Brownbeard just says, "You people are the worst." I just loved that line. It is so funny to me. You people are the worst. It feels like such a like regular real person thing to say. Um, we go to a bunch of the dudes who were trying to cut their way into the lab, and eventually one of the doors begins to open, the shutter, and they're all like, yeah, this is amazing. They finally managed to get it open. And the subordinates are like running out trying to find out who the hell ruined everything and opened this door. And one of them was like, up there. And we see our friends, and they are the ones fucking the world up. We also have Brownbeard who like cuts his way in on another side, and everybody is like, that is so cool. But also, now there's just a hole in the side, and that gas is still out there. So that's not awesome. You know, that's going to be a problem for us, right? But, we'll deal with that later. First, get inside. Secondly, deal with poison gas. Yeah, I get it. So that is the end of the episode. But yeah, these three were fun. I really enjoyed these a lot. So, okay, guys, I am going to wrap this one up. Thank you again so much for listening, for commissioning Florian. Hope y'all are enjoying. And until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
was an Unspoiled Network podcast.